Hello?
Hello, Jughead. This is Archie. Come over right away. It's a matter of life or death.
Oh, relax, Archie.
Attention, all true believers. Marvel Comics is on the air.
A friend of the unfortunate, enemy of criminals. In reality, Dan Garrett, a rookie patrolman, loved by everyone but suspected by none of being the Blue Beetle.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality. Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So a week ago, while Jay was here doing this show with Ed and Dan, I was crawling on my hands and knees across the ballroom floor in a hotel in California, probably taping down Ethernet and Cat5e cables. As I finished wiring up the camera array for ComicsPro. Once we got done with that, we ordered dinner and then went to a reception where I got to hang out with Pat and Oswalt. There were also other guests there, some notable ones that you'll know, and you'll definitely know their work, and some maybe not so notable ones that you might know a little less well, right? But I got to meet Pat and Oswalt. I got to meet Patrick Horvath, who wrote Between the Trees Where Nobody Sees, and some other cool stuff. But I was at ComicsPro, and the thing you need to know about ComicsPro is that it is the only trade organization representing comic book retailers. ComicsPro is the way retailers get together and speak with one voice. And so every year at the annual ComicsPro meeting, we get big announcements from publishers and creators and all kinds of people about really cool stuff that's coming in the next year. But we also have a chance to sit down and break down data, break down announcements, break down all kinds of stuff that at the end of the day will help the comic industry stay strong. So on today's episode of Kyle and Jay's Q&A, we're going to go through some of the big announcements from ComicsPro. We're going to answer your questions. And we're just going to overall kind of talk about what I was doing last week while I wasn't here. So, stick around. We'll have a good time with it. What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Jay, thank you for holding down the fort last week.
Oh, no problem.
It was a good show. I watched it after the fact.
Yeah, Ed was a little nervous, but you know, he did great.
Absolutely. And I think that's important, right? That, like, even when you're nervous, you do it anyway.
Yeah.
And, you know, you see what happens, you see what comes of it, and Ed did a hell of a job.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan's always great. Dan will carry anybody, so
yeah.
I wasn't real worried about it. Say hi when you get here, guys. If you're in the comments, if you're watching, say hi when you get here. Let us know. So like I said during the cold open, ComicsPro is the trade organization for comic book retailers. So again, this is one place where we can all get together and speak with one voice. If you read the internet, no two comic retailers speak the same. But at ComicsPro, we kind of come together and with a unified message. This year's Comics Pro was a little different than others in the past. Well, it did have roundtable presentations and things like are always happening. This year featured a lot more education opportunities for shops in terms of things like how to write a shop handbook, how to handle HR things, how to market.
Yes.
How to catch a god awful cold. But one of the things I taught was social media live selling and how to break out of the whatnot triangle, which is, you have whatnot, you have YouTube Live, and you have Facebook only sales. How to get out of those three things and into a more broad spectrum for live selling. So you have several of those things there, but mainly large portions of the day, large chunks of the day were spent listening to sponsor publishers and distributors, everybody talk. So TJ James asks, are more retailers seeing Comics Pro as a positive force for their business? And so when I met TJ James was actually at Diamond Retailer Summit. And Retailer Summit is a very different demon to Comics Pro. Whereas Retailer Summit is put on by Diamond, or was put on by Diamond in the past, it was limited to people who worked with Diamond, right? You wouldn't get publishers who weren't through Diamond. You wouldn't get POS systems that weren't Comic Hub, or not Comic Hub, that weren't Comic Suite. You wouldn't get things like this that weren't Diamond specific. Comics Pro is a lot like Retailer Summit, but it's an open sandbox. Anybody can come and play. So we had presentations from Comic Shop Assistant. We had presentations from Comic Hub. We had presentations from Managed Comics. We had presentations from several other POS systems, whereas you would never get that at Diamond. At the same time, Comics Pro is more of a dialogue than a Retailer Summit ever was. Right? At Retailer Summit, it was a lot of me telling you what I'm doing, and a lot less me asking you what I can do for you. Whereas at Comics Pro, it kind of is a both and. Right? You have these big sponsor presentations where you tell me what you're doing, but then we come around to the roundtables and you tell me what I can do for you. I'll give you an example of this. There's a new publisher called Raka. REKCAH, which is just hacker spelled backwards. So if you need to figure out how to spell it, it's hacker spelled backwards. But their book is called The Future Is, and then there are 6 asterisks.
Oh, yeah.
It was one of the most interesting announcements there was there. But the thing is, when we went to the roundtables, I was able to sit with that guy who actually works for a company that does cybersecurity, but his specialty is Discord. They have like 100,000 people in their Discord. And I was able to talk to him about, hey, what would you charge to come and help me build out our Discord? And so he and I are going to meet about the experiences Discord, which we have and we barely use, right? Like Jay kind of does some stuff on there once in a while.
Yeah.
Like we barely use. Well, he's going to teach us how to use it more effectively. So that kind of thing. TJ, I remember when Comics Pro started, a lot of smaller retailers were convinced it would just be bigger retailers running things. You have that, but if you separated the room into bigger retailers versus smaller retailers, the amount of smaller retailers would so far outweigh the bigger retailers, it's not even funny. The number of people there with multiple stores in a chain, I could probably count on one hand. Representatives from those stores, might take two hands. 90% of the membership, 90% of the people there were people with one store, were less than 3 employee stores, were, like your average mom and pop shop. For instance, Miss Jen was there. Well, Miss Jen has a handful of employees, but she has one location. She doesn't have the buying power that a Phil Boyle of Coliseum of Comics or, Graham Crackers or some of those would have, right? So it's a lot of her, but it's her chance to one-on-one with a lot of publishers. It's my chance to a one-on-one with a lot of publishers. That is the important bit, right? While those publishers or those retailers are certainly there and they certainly have a voice, their voice is not weighted any heavier than anyone else's. At least not at ComicsPro proper. Outside of ComicsPro, I can't tell people what to do when they have meetings after hours, right? So some of the big announcements that came out. From Marvel, as I flip through my tabs, Chip Zdarsky and Valerio Schiti are going to launch Captain America. New Captain America coming from Chip Zdarsky, who has most recently been writing Batman. Also Zdarsky Comic News. By the way, guys, I think it will be available online soon. But Zdarsky Comic News' presentation was the funniest of the whole weekend. It was hysterical. And Zdarsky Comic News is really going to, I think, become the new Wizard magazine, as it were. But because the people who are funding it are us, as retailers and as consumers, it will last a lot longer. So, that's the thing. But Zdarsky and Valerio Schiti are going to do a new storyline based immediately after Steve Rogers is reawakened, revealing Captain America's first battle with Doctor Doom. So that is something to be looking forward to. There was art revealed for it in terms of character designs that is much more traditional Captain America than we've seen recently.
Ooh.
Wings are back. So that'll be nice.
Got the triangle shield back?
They have not revealed the shield.
Okay.
But he definitely has those flash wings.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. You've got a new look for the Howling Commandos. You've even got a new look Iron Man that will be in this book. The shield on the first spoiler cover or the promo cover is round. But that could just be a promo. Sophie, that's DC. Sorry, I had these sorted and then they got unsorted. All right, Miles Morales to enter other Ultimate Universe with Ultimate Spider-Man inclusion. Miles Morales will be jumping into other Ultimate. Will be entering the current Ultimate Universe with Ultimate Spider-Man inclusion, written by Dennis Camp and Cody Ziegler, plus artwork of Jonas Scarf. The comic is the beginnings of the return of the main bad guy, the Maker. It'll see Miles as the only key to enter the Maker's universe. When his baby sister Billy uses it to enter the Ultimate Universe, Miles must go save her, and he'll meet the Spider Dad version of Peter Parker, the Ultimates line Spider-Man. So this is something you saw in Time Slide when it came out, kind of teased. So that will be fun. I will say this, and there's a couple more Marvel things that I'm going to include, but Marvel's presentation, I'm big mad about. It melted an entire laptop. They sent me a 9 gig PowerPoint.
Oh, goodness.
Full-on TIFF files, fully rendered cover art files for their PowerPoint. It was colossal. Made me want to bash my head through a wall. But I will also say that Marvel's presentation was significantly edited at the last minute by their legal department. So there were things that they wanted to announce that they couldn't. But they did announce Jeff the Land Shark is getting his first ever single issue solo series. 9 gig PowerPoint file. And I had to download it from their personal private encryption server that required a password that they didn't give me. So it's like 7:30 in the morning California time. And I'm like blowing up Marvel Legal going, I need a PowerPoint to download this thing so David Gabriel can present. It was wild. It was dumb, and I hated it.
That's nuts.
But I'm very excited for Zdarsky on Cap. And I'm very excited for right, basically. Yeah. It's like, what do you expect me to do? You can't just it's a 9 gig file. Like, when you can't send it through Dropbox or WeTransfer, maybe redo your PowerPoint. Anyway, but this is this new Jeff the Land Shark series is coming. They didn't announce creators, but I know Kelly Thompson is involved. So Jeff the Land Shark will have his own series. There is a new, I don't know that it's a new character, but it's a new series that I'm kind of excited for. Spider-Girl will be getting a standalone series. Written by Torun Gronbeck with art by Andrew Riso. Starting right out of the pages of Dan Slott and Paco Media's Spider-Boy. So, like I said, Jeff and Spider-Girl have both been kind of popular in other Marvel properties, like Marvel Rivals, and are very popular among the younger reader set. One of the things I noticed from Marvel's presentation this year was a very strong pivot in their new material to try to draw in the younger, all ages, and manga reader set into traditional American comics. So while some of these books might not appeal to those of us who are old and grizzled and awake at 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night chatting on YouTube, it will appeal to our kids, our nieces, our nephews, the people who are trying to get to like comics as much as we do, who are just like, I want to play Fortnite. Well, this is for them. But Marvel also has announced something that I think will appeal to us. Marvel has announced, and by the way, I didn't have time to take notes. I was so busy at ComicsPro, I didn't get to take these notes on my own. So I am counting on The Beat, comicsbeat.com. Heidi from Comics Beat and her reporters sat from me to the other side of my computer from my table all weekend, and I saw how many legal pads they went through taking notes. As much as Bleeding Cool and others were reporting on it, no one's reporting is as thorough as Comics Beat. So if you want to go look this stuff up on your own, head over to Comics Beat. Marvel has announced plans for its Marvel Premiere Collection of books, meant to be as compact as 6x9 books to help. So that's the same as the DC Digest size. to help new audiences catch up on some of the most prestigious and popular storylines. The efforts are being made to be more accessible entry point for readers and will continue with 3 new titles in 2025 with stories for Wolverine, Hawkeye, and Civil War. In addition, Wolverine or Daredevil Born Again, Black Panther, One Nation Under Our Feet, which are already out. They've announced Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Fantastic Four Solve Everything. Civil War will collect the graphic novel, the Marvel's best-selling graphic novel of all time. And it will be the stories written by Mark Millar and drawn by Steve McNiven. Old Man Logan will collect Old Man Logan, also by Mark Millar and Steve McNiven.
Yes.
Are we seeing a pattern here? And then we throw it off with Hawkeye, Barton, and Bishop, collecting the modern classic that redefines superhero storytelling by Matt Fraction and David Aja, which, as you remember, was the inspiration for Kate Bishop, a.k.a. Marvel TV's Hawkeye. So those are big, exciting. Like I said, again, they're doing a lot of work to bring in new readers and try some stuff. From DC, whose presentation was not 9 gigs. By the way, if anybody has any questions about Marvel stuff or what Marvel announced, again, I can tell you it was pretty compact and limited, despite being a colossal pain in my ass. And I will say this, and TJ's been around, he knows, but anybody who doesn't know, David Gabriel has a little bit of a reputation at these things. He couldn't have been any nicer to work with. He couldn't have tried any harder. He wanted to tell people so much more than he was allowed to. He was so upset with the stuff that got cut because he knows it's going to change a lot. It's going to help a lot of people make a lot more money. I will say the teaser trailer at the end, or the teaser at the end, was a piece of art he couldn't announce, but Jay, if I were to tell you that a character in Marvel wears a gold helmet that looks like a bell, who would you think it is?
Nova.
Now, imagine if the cover art was that helmet, like a tin can that's emptied and been run over by a car and covered in blood. Would you be excited for that? Or would you not be excited for that?
Yeah, I would definitely be excited for that.
Yeah. Mike, I appreciate your note. I'm already on a huge vitamin C supplement, and I'm on things significantly stronger than Theraflu. I'm on the Mariah Has to Sing Tonight drugs. That will hopefully knock this out in 24 hours. Including my very good friend Zithromycin. So, but Theraflu is the backup. I ran out of Zicam midway through ComicsPro, which is always risky. And then I was on planes. So many planes. So I appreciate it. Yes, it looked like a Nova versus a Chevy Nova.
Dang it, Ed. It was Ed's wife's birthday today. So his birthday present to her was watching Titanic.
Okay. So from a physics standpoint, there's a fan theory going around that there was enough room on the door for Leo DiCaprio. Here's the problem with it. A door made of wood only has so much buoyant pressure that it can provide as a flotation device. The additional weight may have been okay if he could have been plucked out of the water, lifted up, and set down very gently. But what would have happened if he had tried to climb on is that the door would have tilted, shoving one corner down into the water, sliding rows down the door and into the water and preventing either of them from being able to climb back up on because now the door is fucking slippery. But yeah, boat sinks, man. Boat sinks.
And I gotta agree with TJ. The Marvel DC Marvel books.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
Whoa.
We are not there yet. But yes, I have done more thought about the physics of the stupid door in Titanic than anybody whose last name isn't DeGrasse Tyson. Okay? So, meh. Also, did you watch an old release or a newer release where they fixed the sky? Because they got the stars wrong in the original 2 releases. The original release and the VHS double set. The stars are wrong. Anyway, so DC's presentation was more stilted than Marvel's, but only because they were joined by 2 of the most colossal names in our business. One of them was prepared to speak, and the other one just sucked the oxygen out of the room. And we'll get to that in a minute. But so we'll start with the announcement. DC announced the Summer of Superman. They are going to do a lot of Jay targeted releasing this summer, including Mark Waid and Skylar Patridge on the early days of Superman in Boy of Steel. Action Comics Boy of Steel. This will be released under the Action Comics name. But here, real quick. Shout out to Comics Beat for this. Shorts, not underwear. Shorts on the outside. That's a variant cover by David Tausk. There's some concept art there. But Mark Waid and Skylar Patridge on that, which I'm excited for. I think so many people, especially coming out of the Zack Snyder era of DC films, have forgotten the brilliance of Smallville. Have forgotten the genius of Superman wasn't always old. Like at one point he was like a teenager and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And presenting that era is not done often enough, but it's so important in understanding the mythos. My buddy Danny called me, I don't know, an hour before we went on the air, hour and a half, to talk about the things that DC has announced, and he's really excited for the Superman movie, but he's still hung up on Henry Cavill as Superman. And the thing I have to remind him is Henry Cavill's a great actor. What is Henry Cavill not, Jay? He's not a teenager.
Yeah.
He cannot play 19. He's great, but he's old.
Yeah. He passed for college age in Man of Steel, but that was also
how many years ago?
2013.
Right, that was a decade ago.
Yeah,
right.
That's what I was going to say.
So that's the thing I keep reminding Danny is like, hey, Superman hasn't always been in his mid-40s. Like, you got to bring in other actors to play young man. Yes. And the same as you'd have to bring in, like, Alan Alda to play old man Superman. You'd have to bring in an old person. By the way, I'm here for Alan Alda as old man Superman.
Yeah.
Or, you know, name another old actor.
Oh, God.
But that kind of thing, right? Like, so having a story to kind of remind everybody that the mythos hasn't always been super old man Superman.
Yeah, and there's certain things too, like he didn't fly in the very first Action Comics. He ran.
Right.
He ran on telephone lines, and in certain stories, he wasn't always invulnerable. There's a story where he was about 5 or 6 and fell out of a tree and broke his arm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to see different interpretations, and we don't get a lot of younger Superman stories.
Right.
Like the closest I've had was in my the Last Days of Lex Luthor when they do flashbacks.
Right. Speaking of Super, Sophie Campbell to write and draw a new Supergirl ongoing series. This is a lead up to the Millie Alcock Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow film. As part of the Summer of Superman, they will be featuring a Supergirl and Crypto story. And for those of you who are a big fan of collars, she doesn't really have collars, but there's definite midriff and like spandex action happening in some of these variant covers. But I'll tell you, I'm going to show it here, Jay. The Bilquis Elvie cover.
Ooh.
Right? Isn't that beautiful?
Oh my goodness.
Like, sure, we can get behind, this kind of thing, but my God.
It just like the absolute one. I dig the shield.
Right.
Wow. That is. Oh, those are gorgeous.
There's your art, Germ.
Yeah. What?
The mouth is making me angry. What, did they take the picture while she was talking?
Oh, it is the one. I was fixing to say that reminds me of the art. That is the artist. That's right.
Bilquis, yes.
Okay. I just recently read Woman of Tomorrow.
No, you're good. By the way, for those of you who remember, I was reading a Bilquis book in Helen of Windhorn.
Oh,
from Dark Horse. So similar art style to that as well.
Yes, triple.
Similar facial features to that as well. So, like I said, I'm very excited for this one as well. On some level, just because it's kind of a how do you get Supergirl back into the lexicon of comic book fans? Well, you throw some sexy ass covers at it.
Yeah.
And you let a stellar writer do it, Sophie Turner. Okay. We had Jeff the Land Shark from Marvel. Who do you think we're going to get from DC, Jay?
Come on, we got to get Crypto.
Ahead of his big screen debut, Crypto rockets into his own miniseries from Ryan North and Mike Norton. Crypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, is a new 5-issue miniseries from Ryan North and Mike Norton with colors by Ian Herring, debuting in June, a month before the Superman film. It's a heartfelt and moving view of humanity, good and bad, through the empathic eyes of the ultimate outsider, a poor lost dog who just so happens to have superpowers. Oh, I haven't shown you the cover art yet, Jay. The main cover is Jay Lee and June Chung.
Oh, I already know this is going to be good. Oh my God. I love that so much.
Can I tell you? And I'm about to do it now. When they showed this in the room, I wept.
Oh. This is gorgeous.
Listen, if you're a retailer out there and you can't sell this, go sell cars because you're doing the wrong thing.
Oh, wow.
This is a variant by Dustin Wen.
Oh, it's cute. Oh, come on.
Mike Norton and Ian Herring.
Ow.
Right? And here are some, this is an interior page by Mike Norton.
Oh, that looks so good. That looks so good.
So good. Once again, shout out to Comics Beat for having all of this on their website. Now, after they announced that, somebody walked into the room. And everybody started to mumble. And I knew who it was because I had seen them in the hall and we had talked momentarily. When I say that this person is one of the most powerful people in comics, but is the single most powerful person at DC. Well, not the single most powerful person, but the single most powerful creative at DC. The Facebook feed died? I'm sorry, Ed. It's not showing as a problem on my end. When I say that the person is the single most powerful creative at DC, and it might help to know that they were somewhere off China filming something we're all going to go watch and got on a helicopter and a red eye to come to this presentation. Does anybody want to take a guess? Oh, Facebook, the app died. Okay. TJ got it right.
Oh, really?
And he came in solely to stand in the back and watch the next announcement. Perhaps the most reported on story from ComicsPro. We're getting a new Batman #1. Jorge Jimenez is staying on with new writer Matt Fraction.
Oh my
And when they announced this, Matt Fraction comes walking onto stage and people stood and clapped. So Matt said that this is basically a new start after his good friend Chip reset the universe, right? When Chip got the reins on Batman, a lot of the toys have been taken out of the sandbox, and Chip spent significant time putting them back in. And now Matt gets to go play in the sandbox.
Oh, goodness.
What are, in your opinions, and I want to hear in the chat, everybody, so I'm not going to move on from this because I need to also blow my nose. But, Jay, you talk about it in the chat. What are the most iconic colors of a Batman costume?
So outside of black and yellow, I've always been partial to the blue and gray. Like those are the colors that I really dig. Blue and black, black and yellow, blue and gray are like, those are the colors. Because I remember watching like Super Friends or Scooby-Doo when, Batman and Robin made a guest appearance on it. The blue and gray suit is the one that I remember the most. The pink cowl. Oh, let's go. Oh.
That is the concept art. This is the teaser art.
Okay, I remember seeing the new symbol, and I think the new symbol looks amazing.
Right, here's some interior pages.
Oh, goodness. Oh.
Some interior art that they released. That's the new sigil.
Oh, that just...
The thing Matt said that really stuck with me is Gotham had gotten too dark.
True.
It felt like it had rained in Gotham for like 6.5 years.
Yeah.
He revealed, and he goes, I don't know if I'm allowed to reveal this, but I'm gonna anyway. The first line of the book is, "No rain. It's a new day in Gotham." But Fraction said in his interview, which was very funny, because I was also in charge of keeping time for these things. And at one point I was supposed to tell them they had 15 minutes left, and I held up the wrong card for 5 minutes. And Matt goes, and then 5 minutes later I held up the card that said 10 minutes, and Matt goes, "Wait, I thought Kyle said it was only 5 minutes." I go, I had my finger over the one. And he goes, "You're full of shit, but okay." Which, by the way, getting to hang out with Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky, guys, like Kyle, was an emotional mess. They are my two favorite writers of the last 50 years who aren't now considered monsters. They are my two favorite writers of the last 50 years. And I got to talk to them, not about their Marvel and DC stuff. I got to talk to them about their obscure-ass Image stuff. Okay, that nobody read but me.
That makes sense.
Anyway, Matt said, part of the reason Batman has lasted as long and has resonated as loudly as he has as a character is that he's incredibly resilient. He can be all kinds of things to all different people all at the same time, whether that's in comics or animation or movies. So that was a fun one. That was a big deal. I wanted to cover the big two first because everybody else had a lot less announcements. For instance, IDW. No Turtles announcements. A lot of what is happening right now, guys, with the upheaval in the industry is that licensees or licensors are hesitant to sign contracts with these companies because they don't know about their ROI, their returns, right? So their contracts weren't getting signed as fast as normal. So, for instance, my friend Aub didn't have a ton to announce. What did he announce? Well, he announced more cities for Godzilla vs. America. He talked for a minute about how Godzilla vs. LA, all the money is going to help victims of the wildfires. He talked about how we're going to get our first ongoing Godzilla series ever from IDW. So that kind of stuff. But then he brings up the man he introduced as the funniest comic working in comics, Brian Posehn, who did a 20-minute stand-up set where he made fun of literally everyone from Marvel to DC to Diamond to IDW to everybody. And it was great. Everyone laughed so hard. You had announcements from companies like Ignition Press or Ignition Graphics, who just sort of announced their slate and some of the teams they're working with and some of their methodology. There's not a lot for me to talk about there because when it's ready, Philip Sablik from Ignition will be joining us here on the Experience to talk about that. But they were just sort of making their announcement, hey, we exist. Ghost Machine revealed a couple of new books.
Oh, yeah.
First Ghost, which some of us already knew about, but that's Brad Meltzer, who you may know from Justice League in the Tornado's Path and a lot of other DC stuff, but also for that conspiracy theory show he did on the History Channel. Mm-hmm. Co-writing with Jeff Johns with art by Gene Ha. The second book announced was Sisterhood, a Hyde Street story, starring Sisterhood, who hasn't yet been introduced in Hyde Street. It's a new character that's coming. That'll be written by Maital Zult and Leela Lees. Leela Lees also signed an exclusive full-time agreement with Ghost Machine, so that'll be great. But that was really it from them. The smaller publishers spent a lot of time talking about how they're going to weather the storm. You know, who they're going with, where they're going, that kind of stuff. I forgot one Marvel title. Marvel is doing a whole title of bad guys called Sister Sorrow. Celebrating the upcoming anniversary, this new saga kicks off in June. Overseen by Mark Guggenheim, the series will focus on Marvel's supervillains with 7 one-shots dedicated to Doctor Doom, Green Goblin, Abomination, Loki, Red Skull, Dormammu, and Mephisto. And then a new villain called Sister Sorrow. Do you guys want to see Sister Sorrow?
Yes. Yes, they do. Oh. Oh.
I don't think there's... Oh, there's the Doctor Doom cover.
Oh, my goodness.
That's Sister Sorrow.
That is an awesome character design.
Mhm.
Holy hell.
Mm-hmm. Right. By the way, that is a Lyrics Lee cover. So there you go. That was one I forgot. There was another company that I was very impressed with, and I don't think it's a Scarlet Witch variant. I think it's a true new baddie. I think it's going to rival Death or Hela in the Marvel universe. So there's another company called AMP AMP Comics. They announced a number of things, not the least of which is a fully done already comic written by none other than John Kreese himself, Martin Cove, who, by the way, was just kicking it all weekend. Not literally kicking people, but he was just around all weekend. And you could just walk up and talk to him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. By the way, like, Matt Kent was just hanging out all weekend. Like, it was real weird, guys. Real weird for me. I was having many, many moments. But AMP debuts a book called Never Wars. One of their books that's already kind of... one of the things that they've already done is they've secured a first look deal with the OP. If you don't know the OP, they're a massive gaming company. They do a lot of the licensed monopolies. So have you ever had Marvel Monopoly? That was the OP.
Wow.
But they are AMP is the official publisher of the Strip to Comic contest, with 2024 winners set to be financed and published in partnership with Kodansha Japan, who you know from Akira and Attack on Titan. If that wasn't enough, AMP has also published MC Foley's Love Struck, which is a comic book that has already been picked up and is being developed into a TV series by Maximum Effort, Ryan Reynolds production company. AMP is also the publisher of a company that has bounced around several times. They stick around and they've been a bunch of places, but I'm glad they keep sticking around. They are now the official publisher of Chispa Comics, which is the first Latinx comic publisher in the world, led by David Bowles, Clockwork Curandera, and Hector Rodriguez. Here's the thing about AMP that I want a lot of you guys who've been around here on the EXP to remember. They have a lot of help. And a lot of the people involved in AMP, you know, if you've watched the EXP long enough. AMP is made up in large part of people who are staying in the game, who were at Scout Comics, Red 5, Josh Starnes has been around a lot, David Byrne from Scout, a number of people who have parted ways with the people you may know them from, for one reason or another, are involved in AMP. One of the people there helping with AMP, who's not actually signed to AMP, is Charlie Stickney of White Ash. So just know that there are a lot of... AMP is not one of these companies that just comes in out of nowhere and sets up shop and is sort of underprepared. There are a lot of veterans involved. Every new publisher that launched this year has a lot of veterans involved. Recca Publishing, their book is The Future Is, and then it's 6 dots. Their line is The Future Is Comics, but this is a company that's going to publish one book for 60 issues. They're paid for and basically done. One book a month for 60 months. Yeah. Recca is a division of a massive cybersecurity firm. And this book is a comic book that will teach the basics of cybersecurity to anyone. But if you're already somebody like me who's a little bit of a hacker, a little bit of a cybersecurity fan, a little bit of a computer guy, there will be Easter eggs in there for you. Like every cover will have some sort of puzzle you have to solve. And if you can solve it, it will unlock bonus content or free downloads or things like that. They have some of the biggest names in comics doing covers. The guy who's in charge of it is the head of marketing for this security firm, but he also used to be part owner of a comic shop in Orlando. Like, not, he used to own a comic shop. He used to own the shop called A Comic Shop with Aaron Halland, who you may remember from the very early days of the EXP. Who I hung out with a bunch this weekend, and I'm very excited he's opening a new brick and mortar. So shout out to Aaron. But so this book is in large part backed by our friends at Prana Direct Market Solutions in terms of getting marketing out there, getting things available. Very excited for Recca and for this book. In fact, the guy and I talked at length about Leet Speak and about how powerful Leet Speak can be in terms of internet stuff. Like, I'm going to give away something I shouldn't give away, but all of the EXP passwords are superheroes spelled out in Leet Speak because they're basically unhackable passwords. All of my personal passwords are rock bands spelled out in Leet Speak. Things like this. Like, this is what this book is going to talk about, but in a way that presents this so sort of hyper-futuristic view of the world and storytelling. Where my boy Triple B at? Triple B, are you still here? One of the things that was announced twice,
There
is
it
the most collarly book of collars that's ever collared. Coming off of the fartacular Smell-O-Vision issue Harley Quinn, we are getting the team up none of us knew we needed, Harley Quinn Vampirella.
That's right. That's right.
I don't even know what to do with that.
Oh.
Shut up and take my money.
Yeah.
We also got pretty cool announcements on Space Ghost and some other Elvira. Sorry. There was a Vampirella announcement that's just next on my list.
Okay.
Elvira. Sorry. You're
Even
right.
still though, those
Even
two
still-
characters together.
Read your collars
Oh,
and still shut up and take my money.
yes.
Yes. They also announced some new Vampirella stuff.
Yeah.
Basically just you know, some artists and things that are going to work on Vampirella. A big Vampirella announcement that you're all going to really love is my note. But because I didn't get to take notes, I don't have that stuff written down. Oni Press. Oni announced some stuff that's very retailer centric in the Oni 8, which are things that are going to help retailers sell Oni Press books better. But the big thing they announced is EC Comics beckons all vampire fangs with blood type. And as part of the EC revitalization that they're doing, they are going to do Blood Type #1, written by Karina Bechko, and our Eisner Award-winning artist Andrea Sorrentino, who did Old Man Logan and Gideon Falls, coming right out of Apatef's The Abyss #3. So this is a vampire story. We are also getting, and I don't remember if this is the one. This is not the one. They announced it, but they didn't announce what it is. The first ever ongoing EC title from Oni Press.
Wow.
Now, in between the big presentations of these things, there were roundtables where retailers, it was like speed dating. You had like 5 minutes where retailers would go table to table and meet with individual publishers. And there were a lot more publishers present than just the ones we talked about today. And in fact, there were a lot more that presented than just the ones we talked about today. But some of those didn't really announce much. And some of those were people like Topps and Fanatics and Upper Deck and, some of the manga publishers, Square Enix. And by the way, I think we're going to start reviewing some Square Enix books, or at least I am, on Minute to Skim It. So be looking out for that because they're providing us PDF readers of manga.
Ooh.
Yeah. But there were announcements from publishers that I didn't think really fit our vibe here. And then there were these roundtables. And again, at the roundtables, we saw people like Wave Blue World and Battle Quest and, some of the much smaller publishers were there. But you also had some of the bigger publishers like Bad Idea. Yeah, Fanatics. To be announced in large part there, TJ, but that is the same Fanatics who made the terrible MLB jerseys this year. But they are working with Topps on some stuff. Right now, it is just a return to pop culture trading cards. But there will be others that will be worth noting. Okay. You had other publishers like at the roundtables like Bad Idea and Distillery. And those guys presented, but there weren't a ton. I asked TJ, they would not commit. I cornered them real hard, but they would not commit. Anyhow. But you had everybody from big to small. You had creators all around. Chip Zdarsky was on 3 different publisher sponsor panels: Marvel, DC, and his own. Which was super funny. And then he was in the roundtables all the time. So shout out to Chip for that. So just know that those conversations are a little more private. Like, I'm not going to share anything more than I have about those conversations, because that's an opportunity for a publisher to ask a retailer question, a retailer to answer, and vice versa, right? While the Beat and Bleeding Cool were reporting on the big room activities, the roundtable activities are more private. So I'm not going to really speak about those with any kind of anything. I will say this: we all got a lot of really cool free comics out of that deal. So do we want to talk about the keynote next, which somebody's already mentioned, or do we want to talk about what happens after the day is done?
Let's talk about after the day is done, and we'll get to that key one.
TJ, there was talk about the Comet Standard. This is a good question, and the person I had a guest lined up, but they had to cancel last minute on us. They will be here another time. Who may be the world's foremost leading expert on barcodes. I'm not kidding. It was going to be the nerdiest conversation that has ever taken place on a nerdy channel. There was discussion of the Comet Standard. Here's what I will tell you. Everybody who matters at the moment is on board. There are a couple of holdouts, and one of them is going up for auction in a few days. The other holdout is a POS system, but that's just because they're not yet technologically in a position to integrate. So, like, working on it, but just not there yet. There wasn't a ton of talk about it, TJ, because so many people are already on board that it's going to be a thing. If you want to find out more about the Comet Standard, head over to just Google Comet Standard on your internet, and you'll go to the website. But the Comet Standard is a standardized set of metadata for comic books. When Marvel or when DC, when Diamond distributed everything, Diamond put together the metadata for everyone. So everybody got standardized metadata. The problem is that you only got what Diamond gave you. You couldn't customize it. You couldn't get fields you didn't already have. Stuff like that. The Comet Standard is an industry-wide standardization. So it doesn't matter which publisher, which distributor, which shipper, whatever you get stuff from, the metadata will be the same. And all of the comic-specific point-of-sale systems will use it. And this is going to enable retailers, for you to be able to go into your retailer and say, hey, I want to buy every book that is written by Chip Zdarsky. And Chip Zdarsky will have a specific piece of this metadata that your comic retailer will be able to go in and set a filter. And rather than having to rely on publishers and everyone to get the information correctly, it's already in the metadata. Um, TJ, give me a second. It's already in the metadata, so it doesn't matter if the data is complete or not. It's in the, or if the listings are complete or not. It's in the metadata. Used to be when you go into DC or into Diamond, you have to type in Chip Zdarsky, and about half the time, stuff you're looking for wouldn't show up because the listings were incomplete from the publishers. Right? Or it would say Chip Zdarsky in the description, but he wouldn't be listed as writer or artist. So it's one of those things. So Zdarsky Comic News will actually be using the Prana Direct Market Solutions list, which is right now partnered with Manage Comics, which is using the Comet standard. That stuff, TJ, is so in the weeds right now, and I have such a head cold that I can't even really fully articulate the levels to which the Comet standard will work with these things. So just know that it's kind of a yes and situation there. So every night after the day ends, retailers get to cut loose a little. On Thursday night, there were two really dope parties. One was thrown by Ignition. TJ, I do, but my brain just can't handle it tonight, homie. I want to dig into that. But my brain just can't handle it. And again, we're gonna have Brian on, Brian Garside, who really is one of the experts, and maybe we'll have Django Boren on, who is one of the other halves of the Data Bros, to talk about it when we can get them both scheduled. Anyway, there were two parties. One sponsored by Ignition Press, which was a big open bar, swanky, fancy pants, food, in a club. And we went to that. And that was just kind of a nice mixer. We left there, and there was another party at another brewery that was actually put on by a killer list of creators. I'll read you the list of creators if I can pull it up here. Hold on, it's loading. Thursday night. It was called the We Heart Comics Party. Hosted by Matt Rosenberg, Chip Zdarsky, James Tinian, Jerry Duggan, Kyle Higgins, Ed Brubaker, Mark Guggenheim, Teenie Howard, Tony Fleece, Aubrey Sitterson, Dave Baker, Marguerite Bennett, Cinna Grace, and Daniel Kibblesmith. And by the way, they were all there the whole time, just drinking and hanging out. But you walked up to this party and they handed you a tote bag full of comics from these guys that I'm so excited to tear into. So that was really fun. And that was food you like fried food, like unlimited mozzarella sticks and chicken tendies.
Oh.
Right. The other place had falafel meatballs and weird steak with spicy sauce on it and some kind of fancy hummus. This place had fried food and fruit.
Yeah.
Anyway, both were really great parties and were a good time. Friday night, after everything shuts down, everybody goes to dinner on their own. And then they come back and we have the Bink charity auction. So Comics Pro members and people who are attending bring things in and donate them. And they auction them off to raise money for Bink and Comics Pro. The previous record was 38,000, or was 32,000. This year we raised over 40 for Bink. And if you don't know what Bink is, I would like to visit your cave sometime. Bink is the comic book, the book industry charitable foundation, which helps retailers and anybody who sells books when they need it. That's anything from mental health services to, helping to pay your mortgage so that you don't have to take money out of your store when you have a flood at your store or a fire at your store. During COVID, when people were shut down, Bink was handing out grants to help cover lost wages and things like that. So just know that that's what Bink does, and we raise the amount of money because we take care of our own. Saturday night was the Bad Idea Party at a place called the Revenge of, and the Amp Comics Party. By Saturday night, I was so exhausted I didn't go out. But at Amp Comics, a lot of our indie creator friends from the LA area were there, including Don Wen and several others. And at the Bad Idea Party, they were giving away free tattoos. So it was pretty crazy. There are even after hour stuff that I'm not going to go into because what happens at ComicsPro stays at ComicsPro. But let's just say if you haven't seen Shannon Live, owner of Bat City Comic Professionals in Florida, sing Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit, and witness publishers and retailers and creators have an impromptu mosh pit at a karaoke party, you have not lived. So that's ComicsPro in a nutshell, man. Like, it is 4 days of just absolute jam-packed mayhem. But it's all really high-level comics conversations, even when you're drinking at these parties, right? You know, Tinian presented at the luncheon, but the real conversations with Tinian were at the round tables and were at the parties. You know, the real conversations with Matt Rosenberg were at the round tables and at the parties. The real conversations with Jeff Johns were at the round tables and at the parties. So that's kind of how ComicsPro goes. I will bury the lead a little bit more. A few weeks ago, I mentioned a company called Sweet. They are a tech company who is developing tech for comics people. They are building a alternate version of Comic Shop Locator, but they have a digital. Their idea for a potential predecessor to ComicsPro, or potential successor to Comixology, sorry. It's a digital comic store called Sweet Shop. And announced just today, Image Comics will be joining them on Sweet Shop. So if you're looking for a place to read Image digitally, that will be an option there at Sweet Shop. I'm following them because they seem to be developing stuff that we need and not making a whole lot of waves about it right now, which is good because we want them to get that stuff out working, not working. So the last thing I will talk about is the keynote. The keynote was the president of DC Comics. But that wasn't what everybody was there for. They spoke for a few minutes, and then they brought up two of the most important people at those companies. Oh, I'm going to bury that lead a little bit more. One of the other presentations we got on Saturday, and it wasn't reported on because there wasn't much to report. Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee were back to talk about Hush, and we got to see some pages and got to see some reworked covers. So just be excited for that. Those dudes were great, and they're very excited to bring Hush back to you. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, now back to the keynote. They brought up two really important people. Because it was the president of DC, one of them was expected and one of them was very not. Those two people were Marie Javins, who you would expect from DC, publisher at DC. The other was CB Sobleski from Marvel. And the two of them read off a really clunky script. Why was it really clunky? Because they were having fun with it and they were trying to be goofy. The thing they announced is 2 one-shots that are coming out later this year. When later this year? They didn't say. My guess is just in time for Christmas. Marvel/DC and DC/Marvel. They didn't say much more than that. There was a lot of excitement. But since I've gotten back, since I've gotten home, since I've been on the internet, I've heard a lot of people talking about this. And there's been a lot of people who wonder if this isn't some sort of desperation move. If this isn't some sort of the end is nigh, woe is me kind of thing. Because, to be real honest, that's how the world feels, right? That is not at all what this announcement was. I said this in a retailer forum to somebody. What this felt like was, hey, we as CB and Marie have wanted to do this for a long time. There are a lot of creators who have wanted to do this for a long time. There are a lot of retailers who have wanted us to do this for a long time. But the problem has always been the suits. Guess what? The suits have realized it's a license to print money and have gotten the hell out of the way. So we're going to do this before they decide we can't. That was what the announcement felt like. It very much felt like 2 people who love comics saying, hey, we know you all will love when we do this, so we're going to do it. And for that, I'm extremely grateful. I've talked for like an hour and 15 minutes. Jay has not talked a lot. We've not had a lot of questions. So I want, if anybody has any questions about anything we've talked about or about ComicsPro at all, throw them into the chat. If you're a retailer, you work for a retailer and you have questions about ComicsPro, throw them into the chat. I would love to answer them.
For me, listening to everything, man, that's, oh my God. Like, all of it sounds great. All of it sounds great.
By the way, the catering food was extraordinarily good. Just going to say it. I don't know if I was just really hungry, but they had a fried chicken there that was as good a fried chicken as I've ever eaten in my life. And I've been to the South. I know. While I wait for any questions that you guys might have in the chat, I want to say something. The start of this year has been a hellscape on every front. Everywhere you turn, not just in our industry, but in the world in general. For 4 days at ComicsPro, it didn't feel like that. Right, Jeremy? By the way, Jeremy and I rode back on a plane together, and we never talked because we were across the aisle from each other, and he didn't even know I was there until after the plane landed. It was pretty funny. He actually sat right in front of Amanda the whole time. It was pretty great. Shout out to Jeremy, though, Titan Comics in Texas. One of the best dudes in the business, one of the best retailers I know, one of the most clear and prescient voices for our business. This industry is grateful to have him. And oh, by the way, I hope your daughter's okay. I'm sorry I dropped my luggage on her. Anyway, if she's still sore, I will send her a free massage or something. For 4 days at ComicsPro, all of the bullshit was put aside. We didn't talk about Diamond other than this is a thing we all have to contend with right now. We didn't talk about Universal, even though that's a thing we're all watching. We didn't talk about tariffs, even though it came up on occasion because it's something we all have to be aware of now that we didn't used to. You know, we talked about stalking horse bids, but only because, did you know that word 6 months ago? I sure as hell didn't. It was that kind of conversation. Even the bad stuff was like, okay, it's bad, but it will get better. It will be positive. And Comics Pro felt almost in that sense utopian for our business. I came back with the most profound sense of joy about being in comics that I have had in a long time. Because I fervently believe that our business is in good hands. Right. Nobody cared about things that were holding it back. It's what moves it forward. Right. Sometimes it makes you feel better to bitch a little bit, but it doesn't move the needle forward. I sat in a very unique chair at Comics Pro this year. And it's the same chair I've sat in the last 2 years. I get all the presentations early. I talk to all the publishers, all the presenters, everybody, because I do the tech. I left with the most profound sense of joy that the people who are running our business are the right people to be running our business in these trying times. It used to be on occasion you'd get a vibe from somebody that's like, that dude's just in it for the money. Or that dude's just in it to try to get famous. Or that dude's just in it to try to get this story made into a television show. There was one of those there last year that wasn't back this year, and thank God. The most profound sense of joy that there's nobody working in this business right now, at least that was at Comics Pro, that isn't actively trying to move the ball down the field and make everybody better. Make everybody more money, sell more comics, make comics more accessible, make everything easier. It's a hard job being a retailer. Jeremy will tell you, TJ will tell you, I will tell you, Jen will tell you, Nancy will tell you, Rich will tell you. It's a hard job, but it is rewarding as hell. And it's really hard to see the reward when it's so negative out there. But the last week I spent damn near killing myself. Just telling myself, just keep swimming. You never know what conversation you're going to have. Will get me through the entire next year no matter what comes. On a personal note, getting to tell Matt Fraction how Odyssey changed the way my brain works, and to tell him and Chip Zdarsky together how, when at a time when I was losing hope in comics, Sex Criminals gave me hope in comics, because it was for the first time in a long time the first unique idea I'd seen, is worth all the autographs and all the free comics and all the handshaking in the world. So thank you to Comics Pro for that opportunity. There will be a lot more talk about what happened to Comics Pro on the internet, here on The Experience. I know Miss Jen probably has some books to sell tomorrow night from Comics Pro. Head over to The Beat. Head over to comicsbeat.com and check out all their reporting. Check it out for yourself. See the things that I didn't talk about, because it really is great. Is there any POS vendors looking to step up to replace diamonds? I don't know. I know there are several people who have entered that market. Comic Hub, Comic Shop Assistant, Shopify. There are several others that are out there that work with other POS systems that would integrate Comic Standard or would integrate with Managed Comics, which is a Shopify app. So if you want to know those questions, TJ, if you want to know those answers, I would largely encourage you to reach out to Stu at Comics Hub, to Django at Comic Shop Assistant, or to Brian at Manage Comics. If you really want information on Comet Standard, help at cometstandard.com. I memorized it.
Nice.
Well, no, there will be several people, including Katie Pride and Brian, who will be like, hey, he did the job. So, guys, that was Comics Pro from my perspective. I sat in a very unique chair, and it made it all the more rewarding for me to be there. Right, there are 3 current POS contenders: Comic Hub, Comic Shop Assistant, and Manage Comics. Which one is the best? It's up to you. Brian also alluded to, and Adam alluded to yesterday, there are a couple of others that are integrators into other, like, more commercial POS systems that will let you use Comet Standard and things like that. But I'm not an expert in that kind of thing. I know which POS system I will be putting in my brick and mortar when I reopen. So that's the answer. But your mileage may vary. So with that said, I am losing my voice. I'm exhausted. I need to get some sleep. If no one else has any questions, we will be back tomorrow with Miss Jen. And, oh yeah, Brian spoke about Lightspeed. That's right. Lightspeed is the one. Miss Jen will be back tomorrow with What's in the Box. We'll have the Geeks for Geek Chat, and we'll have Sketch Up with Mel and Mog. Then I will be back Friday, assuming I have a voice, talking to Matthias, and we will have, I said his name earlier, and now I'm blanking, Patrick Horvath as our guest on Order Up on Friday, the FOC show. Then Nick will be back Friday night. He has Mannix covers. He has Jay Lee covers. He has all kinds of cool stuff Friday night for the art show. And then Nancy will be here at 9 doing Friday Night Live with Nancy McCann.
So,
Back to everyone's back next week. Full strength, full throttle. We will see you all then. Until then, head over to your local comic shop and buy some shit. Spend some money. We'll see you later. It's not working, Jay.
Oh, cool.
I got it.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.